Now, we haven't talked about population health, but this is a great example of where we need to go for pediatrics in population health. Identifying specific populations, kids with type 1 diabetes, or kids with complex conditions, or kids with asthma, kids with depression, etc. And we need to pull that data together to find those trends, find those, I'm trying to think of the word, the things that cause delay in healthcare and that are roadblocks for kids to get the care that we need. And once we gather the population health data, that will allow us to solve some of these problems. And that's what the
So
payers.
did you find that this was overly burdensome for your practice? Was this difficult for your practice? Did it cost a lot of money for your practice to do all the screening?
No, now understand that my team of 3 or 4 individuals was much more passionate about it than other partners. That's not a criticism. That was just natural. And
Yeah.
so I probably sent more people over there. And also keep in mind that I have or had, I probably had the largest number of families whose kids have type 1 diabetes. They heard that Fighton had kids with diabetes, and so I just ended up being the diabetes pediatrician in Metro Denver.
And then
So
another
I had
question.
more kids with diabetes, so more siblings also.
Right. And then another question is, did you find that once somebody was positive for two antibodies, that it became a complicated problem for you and your team to handle because the mom is upset and we don't have access to mental health resources? And was that a problem for your practice, or were you able to have a conversation like we do when a child has an LDL that's elevated,
Yeah.
or a blood pressure that's abnormal, or has 2 plus blood in the urine, and I can explain and redo the test, and if the urine does come back positive again, first thing in the morning, send them over to the nephrologist. Was it a big burden in your practice to do that counseling?
It wasn't because the blood and the studies all went to the Barbara Davis Center first, where they were doing the research. And then if somebody had 2 or more antibodies, they would contact me, but they also contacted the family and said, "Here's what we see, here's what these numbers mean, etc." We've shared this information with Dr. Fighton, and generally then I would call the parent later on that day and discuss it with them.
It had to be a very long conversation that you had.
Again,
Develop that.
keep in mind that some of these parents already have other kids with type 1 diabetes.
But still, you're telling somebody that your kid is going to have a chronic illness in the future. You don't know
Oh
when.
yeah.
You don't
Oh
just
yeah.
call up and say, "Hey, your test was positive. Have a nice day."
Oh, absolutely.
Back
Yeah,
in those days, I assure you, telehealth didn't exist.
that's right.
They didn't come to the office, so you couldn't put an office visit. You stayed on the phone for a half hour, probably
Yeah.
for free.
Yeah. For free. Yeah.
That's
You're
my point.
absolutely right.
Well,
Good point.